The New York City Fire Department lost 343. The Port Authority Police Department lost 37. And the New York City Police Department lost 23. And the word lost is not exactly correct. They were murdered by radical Islamic terrorists, intentionally murdered by radical Islamic terrorists. The largest loss of life for the New York City Fire Department prior to that was 12 in a supermarket collapse in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. The 37 Port Authority police officers is the largest loss of life for law enforcement in American law enforcement history in one incident. And the Port Authority Police is a small police department, so they, percentage-wise, they lost more of their force than the fire department did. The New York City Police Department number was 23. Out of that 23, 14 of them were their elite. Like for the fire department, it's rescue companies is the elite. For the police department, it's NYPD. It's the emergency service unit. And 14 of their guys were murdered. 14 of their guys did the same thing the firemen did. They went up the stairs knowing they likely were not coming back. These are the kind of heroes who I want to talk about, who I want to point out, who fulfilled their oath when they became police officers and firefighters. And that's why when you see a police officer or a firefighter in your community, or you see someone from the military who is or has served, we owe all of them a debt of gratitude, and their families, because the families are left, without kind of their leader, right? Mm-hmm. Many of these widows, most of them were men from police and fire department. Most of the widows raised their children by themselves, like Mike Lynch's widow, Denise, who raised that 2-year-old and that 6-month-old boys by themselves, by herself. And God bless them for being able to do it. The effect of these line of duty deaths doesn't stop in the first week or two. It's for the rest of these families' lives. Michael's older son, named Michael Lynch Jr., has now become kind of, I guess, my nephew, and I've been helping mentor him. He's 22.
Yeah.
And he's doing some amazing things, but that's because his mom raised him very well, and he wants his dad to be proud of him and his life and what he does in his life. So he's going to join the military, and he's going to go fight for freedom in America. And there are thousands and thousands of the children of 9/11 who are doing amazing things like this. My best friend Terry, the tall captain,
right,
who kissed me on the cheek, we found out within a couple days that his wife was pregnant with their first child. And that we were concerned that she might not be able to hold the child because she was 40. We were worried about that. We were trying to find the bodies of our friends who we thought might still be alive. We were talking with the families about, do you want to have a memorial service? What about a wake? What about a funeral? Do you want to wait? Do you want to do it now? How long do you want to wait? And then we had to make decisions about how many memorial services and funerals to go to in one day. I think one day there was 25. And you had to make the choice of which of your friends you went to say goodbye to, and then try to explain to the family that you didn't go to. Well, look, I had to go to this one. And try and split our people up, so that there were enough firemen at this line of duty funeral, because usually we get thousands of firemen in uniform, and now we could get like 25. And we had to make sure that each funeral, each memorial service, each wake had the right amount of firemen at it. And and then, if you remember, We had the anthrax attack within a couple weeks, which New York City was one of the targets of, and of course we thought it was all the same terrorist attack coming at us. And then in the first week of November, we had the crash of Flight 587 in Queens. The plane came out of JFK and went right in the ground.
Right.
And so we were trying to deal with all those things in addition to the funerals and wakes and the families and digging through the rubble at Ground Zero. And I don't know how we did it. I have no idea how we did it. I don't know. I don't know how I survived it. My brother and my friend Paul would keep me away from the window or keep me away from a door to a terrace because they thought I was just going to go out and jump off the building and just be done with it. And luckily I was never that, I never had that instinct in me in my life. So my younger brother had come down from Providence, Rhode Island. He was a fireman up there, and he was trying to help me in this very, very difficult and challenging time in my life. And by the fourth or fifth day, I couldn't even talk anymore. I lost my voice between the dust and talking and yelling. I was trying so hard to communicate. And my brother and another guy, Paul, fire chief from Milwaukee, good friend of mine, they like ripped me off the chair and they're like, shut the fuck up and follow us. Like, you're done. You're done. And they kind of forced me out of the room. I was the guy in charge of the room. And they were like, no, you're out. You're out. I don't care. You're out. Only your brother and your best friend could, one of your best friends could do that. And they took me across the street to a makeshift MASH medical center. And they took me specifically into one tent. And there was a young Air Force, I call him a doctor. I don't know if he's a doctor, but he's a really smart young guy. And they had already briefed him about me and that I would be combative, and I had lost a lot of my friends, but they were scared that I was getting very sick. And he sat me down and he said, look, Tim, you do whatever you want, but I'm telling you, you are very sick right now. You're on the verge of going into the emergency room, being admitted for pneumonia. Your lungs are fucked. You're everything. You're in trouble. You're in trouble. You're gonna go in the hospital and be admitted. Or you can do what I tell you, and I will fix you in 48 hours. And I was like, that one sounds better. And he's like, okay, go home. Shower. Take 10 showers a day. Get this shit out of your system. Drink water until you explode. And take these pills. And he said, I promise you in 48 hours, you will be 100% and you can come back and work and look for your friends. But you have to do what I said. So I did what he said. I went home. And
do you know what the pills were?
Yeah, they were. I always lose it, but I'll think of it in a second. The stuff they give you for anthrax, the orange pills. I'll think of the name of it in a minute. Okay. But basically, it just cleans your body out of everything good, everything bad. Like, you're on the toilet, you're peeing, you're like, it just cleans your system out.
Like, nukes you.
It does. It nukes everything out of your system, but then it allows the good stuff to build back up and protect you. And he was right, and that happened. And I went back to work 48 hours later. And I don't know who this young Air Force corpsman or medic was, but I think the reason that I'm not sick today, nearly 20 years later, I've never had cancer or anything, which is unusual. Most of the guys have developed it, is because this guy cleaned my system out with the drug early on.
What is the most common type of cancer or disease that the first responders that were there with you developed?
The most common was probably lung.
Lung cancer?
Probably. It's a common disease in firefighters in general, but the 9/11 firefighters and police officers, that was be the most common. But they've discovered through all these studies now, 20 years later, that there are many very interesting, very different kinds of cancer that only affect us, that are very specific to 9/11 responders. My friend Mike, who's the author of this book, and the brother of my best friend Patty Brown, Captain Patty Brown, Mike died of prostate cancer just 6 weeks ago. He wasn't even a fireman. He came to find his brother in the rubble. And because of the week or two he spent down there, 18 years later, he developed...
1 week. He spent 1 week down there?
Yeah, just 1 week. He developed this prostate cancer, and it's not a prostate cancer that is known to the medical community. It's a different prostate cancer that is much more aggressive and kills very quickly. And that's what happened to Mike. Mike was a medical doctor himself. And it killed him. I'll say it killed him within 18 months of them discovering it. And so I was out in Las Vegas holding his hand when he passed away about 6 weeks ago. But this is happening to us on a large scale. Police officers, firefighters, civilians. Today I read about an FBI agent who passed. I didn't know anything about it, but he passed in the last couple of days from 9/11 cancer. He was an FBI agent down there. It's killing us. Almost every day now it's killing us.